Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says Javadekar slams report on press freedom. In this article, we will focus on three different issues. One, we will discuss about the World Press Freedom Day. We will discuss about the Reporters Without Borders, and we will also have a look at World Press Freedom Index. First, let us understand what is the World Press Freedom Day. This is also known as the World Press Day. This has been celebrated annually since the year 1993, every year on May 3rd. The events for this World Press Freedom Day has been planned, organized and promoted by the United Nations. So it is the United Nations body which will organize this particular event. What is the objective of this particular event? Basically, this is celebrated to raise awareness about the press freedom. The press, which is an important body, which is also the fourth pillar in the democracy, means that it is going to give all the information which is relevant for the democracy. So the truth, the reliability, the facts and information is provided by the press, and that's the prime reason this is celebrated every year on May 3rd from the year 1993. On this very day, we also remember all those journalists who have lost their life in pursuit of truth and giving the story for the general public. For the year 2020, the theme is journalism without fear or favor, and it also has sub themes as well, and that includes safety of women and men journalists and media workers, independent and professional journalism free from political and commercial influence, and it also speaks about gender equality in all aspects of the media. On this day annually, the World Press Freedom Conference also takes place. It is a global conference where multiple people come on a common platform. This platform includes the journalists, the civil society representatives, the national authorities, the academics, and all the people discuss about the emerging problems to the press freedom. And once they identify what these problems are, they also delve deep and ponder deep to find solutions to these problems. Now let's discuss about the Reporters Without Freedom, also called as Reporters Sans Frontiers. This is an international non-profit and non-governmental organization that safeguards the right of freedom of information. Its mandate is to promote free, independent and pluralistic journalism and also to defend the media workers in and around the world. How does it derive this particular power? This is inspired by Article 19 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that recognizes the right to receive and share information regardless of the frontiers, along with other international right charters. So basically, in order to protect the rights of the personnel who are working in the media, it derives its power from Article 19 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So the major protocols that are supposed to be maintained for the media personnel is also given in this Reporters Without Borders. The Reporters Without Borders also comes up with a report, and this report is on an annual basis, and that is what is called as World Press Freedom Index. This is released annually on the basis of an assessment that is conducted in the previous year. For this, about 180 countries are considered, and the ranking for the same is also declared by this organization. For the year 2020, the report has been highly critical about what's happening in the political systems across the world. It takes into picture the geopolitical crisis, the democratic crisis, the crisis of trust and the economic crisis. What is this geopolitical crisis? Let's say, for example, we have multiple regimes in the world. We have democracy, we have authoritarian, we have military regimes. So what the geopolitical crisis speaks about, it says that there have been n number of examples across the world where authoritarian regimes have been taking place. So because of the authoritarian regimes, the media freedom is completely curbed. So it says the geopolitical crisis is spiraling across the world. Then what we have is the democratic crisis, and that is due to polarization in the countries and also due to repressive policies that government have been coming up in the global order. Then what we have is the crisis of trust. What is this? This is due to suspicion and even hatred of the media. The media personnel are not respected, they are attacked by the common people, the political parties attack them, and ultimately there is a dearth of trust on the media personnel, and that has resulted in the crisis of trust. Then what we have is the economic crisis due to impoverishing quality of journalism because the journalists are not being paid. This is what it speaks about in reference to 2020. Now let's look at India's ranking. India now ranks at 142 out of the 180 countries. When you go back to the year 2018, it was ranking at about 138. Now when it comes to the year 2019, it was ranking at 140. The drop in the rankings for the year 2020 is because of the blackout in the Indian administered Kashmir. So kindly remember, these are the words that have been used in the report as given by the World Press Freedom Index, and that is because the journalists were not able to give any information when Kashmir was put on a lockdown for few months. Because the journalists were not able to give the information, that's the primary reason why India has seen a drop in its ranking. Apart from this, countries like Bhutan, Nepal and Sri Lanka have also been placed above India. Now when it comes to the world ranking, Norway is ranking the first when it comes to the press freedom, and when it comes to China, it is ranking at 177, and when it comes to the last country with zero press freedom, and that is at 180, and that happens to be North Korea. So kindly remember these facts because this can be very important from your preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look at some of the important quotes which can be used for essays, answer writing and also for ethics paper as well. We have to uphold a free press and freedom of speech because in the end lies and information are no match for the truth, and this was said by Barack Obama. The press should do what it can to minimize the abuse of power. Self-scrutiny can help and so can competition, but we should also try to understand with clarity why and how press freedom can enrich human lives, enhance public justice, and even help promote economic and social development, as said by Amartya Sen. So kindly remember these quotes which you can use for your answer writing. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Center draft new rules for satellite TV channels. What is the context of this article? The Information and the Broadcasting Ministry has issued a draft notification. This is basically introduced. Why? Because they wanted to bring a change because there was an old policy which was 9-year old, and that is why they want to come up with a new policy for the uplinking and downlinking policy for all the private satellite TV channels. First, let us try and understand what is an uplinking or a downlinking. When it comes to the satellite TV broadcasting, signals of the TV channels are to be transmitted from the ground station to the geostationary satellite, that which is placed in the space. So the transmission of the signal from the ground station to the geostationary satellite is what is called as uplinking, and then what we have is the signals then are collected on the earth by the receiver dish antenna, and that is what is called as downlinking. So when signals are transmitted from the earth to the space, that is called as uplinking, and when the signals are transmitted from the satellite down to the dish antenna onto the earth, and that is what is called as downlinking. For us to ensure that signals are transmitted from the earth stations to the satellite, what we require is called as teleport. So what is a teleport? A teleport is nothing but a satellite earth station which is used to uplink signals to large number of TV channels to a particular satellite. Now the question is, what was the need of introducing these guidelines? The last guideline that was introduced was in the year 2011, and we have seen massive changes after 2011. The need was felt because of the emerging challenges in the present era. What are these? There are fast evolving technologies, and that we have to update. That is why a new guideline is necessary. Then there are changes in the market scenarios. Then there are operational developments in the broadcasting sector. Then we also have to improvise on the ease of doing business in order to accommodate all these important protocols. That is why the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting has come up with this draft guideline. So this draft guideline has been introduced by taking the consultation from multiple stakeholders. First, let us try and understand about the security clearance. Whenever there is a company or a limited liability partnership which is planning to launch a teleport or a hub or uplink a particular channel, what they require is clearance from the government, and this is provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So whenever there has been a new channel that has to be introduced or they want to upscale their operations, that will require the clearance from the central government, and that is provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So once a channel is granted the security clearance, this particular security clearance will be valid for about 10 years. Kindly note, this particular licensing can also be revoked by the Ministry of Home Affairs in case they see a particular channel has been violating certain terms and conditions as laid out by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So what are these violations? These violations include delay or a non-intimation to the ministry about the change in the shareholding pattern. If there are multiple people, multiple companies coming together and making one single channel, and if there are changes in the shareholding pattern from 50% to 60% or from 40% to about 70%, these shareholding patterns will have to be intimated to the Ministry of Home Affairs. If this is not done, this means there is a violation. Then what we have is with respect to the appointment of the director without the permission of the ministry. If the director is appointed by a particular TV channel without intimating the same to the Home Ministry, then this will also be a violation of the terms and conditions. Kindly note, non-removal of a director who has also been denied the security clearance is also a violation. And when it comes to the logo or when it comes to the name of a TV channel, in case there are dual logos or names, that which has been used by that particular channel, again it is a violation. So whatever name has been accepted and given permission by the Home Ministry, the same name has to be used, and the logo that has been given initially, the same logo will have to be used. In case any of the channels are violating, this will result in certain penalties. So what are the penalties? In case there is a channel or a teleport found uplinking certain content not adhering to the rules and conditions of the government, then this will result in warning by the government. So they will have to change accordingly. In case the warning does not work out, then this will lead to prohibition. This may range from 10 days to any number of days that the government decides to impose. And finally, what they will have is the suspension of their license so that they would not be able to continue the future course of action. Now let us discuss about the live telecasting as given under the guidelines. There are two types of channels. One is the news category channel. The other is the non-news channels. What are these news category channels? This includes channels which telecast news. Let's say example, CNN, IBN, NDTV, Republic or Times Now. These are news channels, and there could be news channels in multiple other languages as well. According to the present laws, these news channels would be able to telecast live programs and live incidents, live reporting from any part of India. But according to the present scenario, the non-news channels will not be able to have the live telecasting. In case they have to live telecast a particular program or with respect to the sports channel, what they require is the permission from the Ministry of Broadcasting, or they may have to take permission from the local authorities as well. This is changed in the new guidelines. So according to the new guidelines, the non-news channels will also have the power to live telecast, but only thing that they have to do is to give an intimation to the Ministry of Broadcasting 5 days before this particular program. So for this, in order to increase the ease of doing business, what they have come up with is called as the Broadcast Seva portal. Let's say if they have to come up with a program in the next 5 days, they have to just notify the Ministry of Broadcasting that they will be coming up with a live program on their channel. So this will be hosted on the Broadcast Seva portal, and then permissions will be given for the same under the Broadcast Seva portal. So what is this Broadcast Seva portal? This is one of the portals where permission, registration and licenses will be issued by the Ministry of Broadcasting. So what are the permission? Let's say for example, there is a channel which has to pay an annual permission fee, or they have to pay license fee. This can be undertaken in the Broadcast Seva portal. Then there is application for temporary uplinking of live events, or there is an application for setting up of community radio stations, all these permissions can be taken under the Broadcast Seva portal. So what is the advantage of these guidelines? The advantage of these guidelines are it will increase the ease of doing business. The amount of delay that we saw in the previous guidelines will not be seen in the near future, and they need not have to wait for number of days in order to get permission for live telecasting. These are the advantages with respect to the draft guidelines. How let us look at concerns with respect to these guidelines. There are concerns about too much reference to the Ministry of Home Affairs. This leaves a lot of discretionary power with the Ministry of Home Affairs. New directors in the company sometimes are taken from the employees themselves. Let's say there is NDTV, or let's say there is CNN IBN. If there is a promotion from an employee to become a director, each time this particular channel will have to go to the central government. So appointment of new directors will require permission from the government every single time. This means sometimes the government may actually delay the process, and ultimately the company will not have the director during this transition. The draft guidelines are also quite on the time taken by the government to issue the license as well. Let's say I've applied for the license today. The government has not given any rules with respect to as to how many days will the government take to issue a license for a channel. Then what we have is, let's say the channel has been operating for some time, but it has not operated for the past 60 days. In case they have not operated for the past 60 days, it will be issued a warning, and the government will also request as to why this particular channel has not been operating from the director. And in spite of the warning, if this particular channel continues to not be operational for another 30 days, so all in all for about 90 days, this will also lead to suspension of the license as well as the channel as well. So what we have to understand, on one side the guidelines has some advantages, and that is with the introduction of Broadcast Seva portal and also live telecasting, and the other side what we have is certain concerns with respect to these draft guidelines. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says South Korea will relax social distancing rules further from May 6th. When it comes to containing the virus and also dealing with COVID-19, there have been instances of countries not able to deal with it, and this has resulted in massive deaths across the world. Then there have been instances where there are extended lockdowns, and this has also led to economic bleeding as well. But one country which has been able to manage the health crisis and the economic crisis is South Korea. According to the latest notification, South Korea will further relax the social distancing rules from May 6th, which will allow the phased reopening of business as well. In this article, we will look at two important issues. One, we will discuss on the political front. We will also focus on the policy front. What is the political front? On the political front, we will discuss whether authoritarianism or democracy is good in controlling an extraordinary situation like the pandemic. On the policy front, we will look at what is the South Korean model. When it comes to a debate of democracy or authoritarianism, is it the China model that has worked, or is it the democratic model that has worked? There are advantages with respect to democracy, is what this political aspect is all about. When you speak about South Korea has a democracy and China has an authoritarian regime. There is a single political party, the Communist Party of China in China. They have been able to deal with this particular crisis in the Wuhan, and this has been showed as a model across the length and breadth of the world. This is on one side. There has been an other side as well, and that is to deal with democracy. Let's take the example of South Korea. South Korea has been able to handle this particular crisis with utmost honesty. It has been able to reduce the deaths as well, and at the same time it has been able to continue with its normal activity. The economy has not suffered, and in fact they have also conducted the recent national elections as well. What is so unique about South Korea or about democracy? When you speak about democracy, there are multiple political parties. The opposition can also question the government as well. This will not happen in the authoritarian regime. Then when it comes to the democracy, there is devolution of powers. There is division division of powers between the central government and the state government. Let's take the example of India. Now, when you take the example of India, what we have is the multiple state governments. We have the Kerala government, we have the Karnataka government, we have the Maharashtra government, and then let's see, we have the Gujarat government as well. All these government have individual identities and they work in a way what they feel is efficient for them. So what we have is different political parties in three different states, what can be seen and what can be applied, what is best in one particular state can be taken up and can be applied in multiple other states as well. But in authoritarianism, there is one single government, one single model. There are no different models when it comes to authoritarianism. So what this article says is that democracy is much better when it comes to handling of these types of pandemic than an authoritarian regime. Now you might ask me a question. What about United States of America? United States of America is also a democracy, but at times what defines a particular situation is not whether it is democracy and authoritarianism, it is also about leadership as well. In United States of America, currently there is lack of leadership skills from the president of United States of America. That's the primary reason United States of America is suffering, is what we need to understand on the political front. Let us look at on the policy front. What we are speaking here is what is called as the South Korea model. This South Korea model has been praised by countries like Germany and France. It has been praised by organizations like World Health Organization and the World Economic Forum. Let's unravel what this South Korean model is all about. This will basically make use of extensive testing and rapid contact tracing as well. It will also make use of smart digital surveillance and targeted mandatory quarantine only for those people who have been infected by this particular disease. South Korea's law has also ensured that it has passed Infectious Disease Control and Prevention Act. What does this law do? It will provide enormous powers to the state officials, and it is also requested the non-state actors to also help the government as well. When it comes to the enormous powers, what it has done is it has given powers to the state officials so that they would be able to collect the private data. So the public health is placed above the private data, and at the same time privacy is also ensured for all those individuals as well. Apart from this, while they are also collecting the data of the individuals, there have been certain obligations on the state as well. While the people have been giving their data, the non-state actors have been contributing to this particular cause. The government also has taken its own duties as well. What are these duties? It disinfects all the subways, buses and other public services, and has also established the rights of the citizens to receive free diagnostic and medical treatment. Such is the model of South Korea that it has been praised by multiple countries across the world. This is what we need to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says India's disease surveillance system needs a reboot. This article speaks about problems faced by the poor and the downtrodden in the mid of COVID-19, and it also speaks about how contagious diseases in the past have been neglected, as these are the poor man's disease. First, let us look at the issues that we are facing during the COVID-19 crisis. The poor in the country already had very limited access to the public health services. There were doctors who were once serving diseases like heart disease or kidney issues. These doctors and nurses are now being diverted to serve the COVID-19 patients. What this means is there is dearth of individuals or doctors to treat those diseases which were occurring previously. Before the COVID-19 strike, there was something called as the routine functioning. This will require periodic updates or checkups. That is with respect to the heart, or it might be with respect to the kidney. Because of the impact of the COVID-19, what we see is that there are critical patients who are now being accepted in the hospitals, and periodic checkups and routine functioning is not happening with respect to the poor people. Then when it comes to the hospital staff, they are very negligent towards the poor. They are generally impolite, they are unpleasant, in the present scenario of COVID-19, it has further aggravated as well. These factors have worsened the situation of the poor. So this is with respect to the specific scenario during the COVID-19 process as to how the poor have been the major sufferers. Now let's look at the general context as well. When it comes to the general scenario, the rich basically make use of the private services. They head to the private hospitals. The upper and the middle class also make use of schemes and insurance programs. But the economically poor have to go to the public hospitals. That is where they are being served. Do the public hospitals have all the updated technology? Do they have all the updated apparatus that which is required for testing? The answer is no. Even if there is present of this technology or the apparatus, the number of equipments that are present is comparatively less, and they are present in specific districts as well. So what we have to understand is that the poor are the major sufferers when it comes to accessing of technology as well as the apparatus. Let's say a person is suffering from a disease. This will require testing from multiple fronts in order to confirm the root cause of the disease. So what will require is the testing of the blood, or this will require the urine test, or this will also require the throat swab test as well. But when it comes to the public agencies, do we have all these protocols? And that is the major deficiency. All these tests will be conducted in the private agencies. The root causes are identified, and that is not the same when it comes to the public agencies, is another major issue. Only when these tests are performed, suitable measures can be taken, but the facilities are very limited when it comes to the government hospitals. There are already pre-existing classification. Let's say for example, the respiratory tract infection, or the urinary tract infection, or let's say for example, the fever of unknown origin. Because there are not enough tests that are being conducted, all these symptoms that are shown to the poor people are classified under these names. So ultimately, because they are not able to find out what the root cause of the disease is, and they are only addressing the symptoms, this has led to number of people kicking the bucket and losing their lives as well. Now let's draw another comparison. Let's draw a comparison between COVID-19 and tuberculosis. When it comes to the COVID-19, there are companies who are working out to find a solution to the COVID-19. They are preparing for the vaccines as well. Clinical trials have been conducted and money has been invested as well. This is not the same for a disease like tuberculosis. Why? Because there is no much of R&D that takes place. The scientific research is comparatively less, and private individuals do not make investment when it comes to diseases like tuberculosis. Why? Because they do not generate profit. When it comes to the COVID-19, the rich are the sufferers and the celebrities are the sufferers, and tuberculosis is assumed to be a poor man's disease. So all the investment that we make is in terms of the rich man's disease like the COVID-19, and not the poor man's disease like tuberculosis, which generates no profits to the private entrepreneurs. So all the investments are made to sectors like COVID-19, where there is massive R&D, scientific research, but the same is not happening to the tuberculosis and the poor man's disease. So what this article suggests is that this idea of rich man's disease and the poor man's disease should be out of the window, and what we will require is a coordinated approach across the length and breadth of the world, so that we are able to find the solution for all the problems that the poor man is facing. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Consider the following statements with respect to the case fatality rate. It is the proportion of deaths from a certain disease compared to the total number of people diagnosed with the disease for a certain period of time. It is used as a measure for disease severity. Higher CFRs reflect limited access to the proper healthcare for the most vulnerable people and insufficiencies in the healthcare system. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is all the three statements are right. So the answer is C. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference made under this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statements with respect to the African swine fever. The virus belongs to Asfivirus genus of the Asfiviridae family. The agent causing CSF is a small positive single-stranded enveloped RNA virus. Which of the above statements is or incorrect? The answer to this is 2 only. only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Kindly remember, there are two types of swine fevers. One is the African swine fever, the other is the classical swine fever. Normally, one would not be able to understand on the field, but only when this virus is taken and then it is confirmed in the laboratory testing, that is when a differentiation of both can be made. Kindly also note, the disease appears similar, but they are completely different viruses. When it comes to the CSF, which is also called as the classical swine fever, it is known as hog cholera. It is caused by a virus from the pestivirus genus of the family Flaviviridae family. The virus of the ASF belongs to the Asfivirus genus of the Asfiviridae family. When it comes to the structure of the virus, the CSF has a positive single-stranded enveloped RNA virus. When it comes to the structure of ASF, it is enveloped by double-stranded deoxyribo acid. When it comes to the CSF, it is closely related to the virus that causes bovine viral diarrhea in the cattle and the border disease, that which is caused in sheep. When it comes to the ASF, it is caused by the virus that is unrelated to the classical swine fever and has a more complex genetic structure. And kindly remember, the ASF as well as the CSF are viral disease affecting the pigs exclusively. They do not infect the humans or the other wild stock. Now let's look into the next practice question. Kaudinya Wildlife Sanctuary is in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of reference made under this article. So kindly remember, this wildlife sanctuary is situated in Andhra Pradesh. The sanctuary has dry deciduous forest with thorny scrubs interspersed with trees, and there is man-animal conflict, overgrazing and illegal collection of wood in this particular sanctuary. Regarding the taxation system of Krishnadeva, the ruler of Vijayanagara considered the following statement. The tax rate on land was fixed depending on the quality of land. Private owners of workshops paid an industries tax. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is both 1 and 2. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Will the Information and Broadcasting Ministry's draft guidelines for private satellite TV channels help in improving the ease of doing business? Critically analyze. Next question. The absence of an effective public health network has resulted in extraordinarily high disease burden. Explain. So please write all your answers on the comment section so that you guys can have a peer review and also come up with constructive criticism. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.